Vodkast. Welcome. Hey, Jeff Manchester, Jeff Manchaser, with a new Vodkast, a new Vodkast. I've got Coke and vodka today, which I don't normally do. It's normally just like a vodka soda, but this is a bit naughty. It's a bit naughty with Coke in it. So, but it's whatever. It's Cinco de Mayo, so any excuse really to drink. The light turned green. Have a shot. There's no excuse. It's just drinking. So it's been a long time since people have heard from me. I know. But you might have heard me, just not on the YouTube channel. You might have seen some stuff that I did. I was in Chicago doing a reverb video, a little batch of videos out there. I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, doing Sweetwater, which is just mental. If you ever get to go to Fort Wayne and don't know what to do because you're overwhelmed by all the possibilities, go to Sweetwater because it's a lot of fun and there's super amazing people there and it's just wonderful. I was in Vegas last week, the week before last week, doing the National Association of Broadcasters. So it's been a very intense little bit. And before that, before all those things, I was in Cambridge, Mass, doing isotope stuff because that's where they are. That's where we are. I guess I'm with them now. So yes, for people who don't know, I'm a product specialist with Isotope now, but I'm still running the channel. I'm still doing videos and I have some really cool stuff lined up. I'm going to be doing a little overview walkthrough of Sonokinetics Electroacoustic, which is just dope with a capital D. But what are we doing today? I don't know. I feel like I could split off this podcast and do some like an advice sort of podcast. This isn't advice, but it's mostly focused on composing. But like I've been doing so much networking and meeting people, and I'm really learning a lot. So maybe I might open a segment every time I do the Vodkast with like a what I've learned and how it can help you because I'm networking, I'm meeting a lot of people. I just did a video on the AT2020 USB-I, and that's the mic that I use for this podcast and for the channel and all that stuff. But I met one of the guys, from Audio-Technica, or as one guy pronounced it, Audio-Technica, which made me laugh, at NAB. And I was just like, this is, awesome. I have his card now. I met people from Sony. I met people from Rode. I met people from all over the place. It's wonderful. So maybe I'll do a little thing on like how to network and blah, 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 because I guess whether or not I know it, I am learning about, collaborating and meeting people and that sort of thing. So I'm sure that there could be some takeaways that might be of interest to you people. But for now, we're going to focus on the composing element. We're going to focus on Vodkast sort of stuff. And I want to start. There's just a beautiful question that came in. Just you don't get these questions every day. This one came in, and I swear to God, I didn't cook it up. I didn't write it. I can't really do the creative work it takes to come up with an email like this. But this is a teaching moment for me because I've been stressing on this channel a lot about professionalism. Right off the bat. I don't swear on the YouTube channel. It's not because like the YouTube guidelines will demonetize or whatever, you know what I mean? If you swear, it's not to do with that. I feel like I never want to look back on anything that I've done online and feel like if my mom saw it, she'd be, a little sad or something, or my parents saw it, or if my nephew or my niece saw it or whatever. I just don't, in real life when the cameras are off, I'm just filth personified. No, but I'm just saying. So this email that I got, it's not filthy or anything. I know I'm kind of teasing it. I'm kind of milking it. Y'all want to know what's going to be, but this is not really sort of crass or disgusting or ill-natured. It's just like how not to talk to people, and I've talked a lot about that on this channel. I've talked a lot about how to present yourself and how to meet people and how to put your best foot forward, because I know a lot of audio people, they're not the most outspoken, extroverted people out there. They really like to create and all that stuff, and then they have to like sort of deal with the fact that they have to be human and communicate with other people to like earn a living and socialize and just have a social life. So but all that said, this email came through, and this is just not how to do it. So I'm just going to read it word for word. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I'll put it on the screen. I'll leave his name out, but or her name, could be her name. Who knows? But here we go. Word for word. The new-ish straight fam. Straight spelled with an 8. STR8. Not bad, for real, with a 4. Keep working. ... Liked and subscribed. I show respect for real I show respect for real talent. I threw some new heat up on the U2, the YT channel. Do me a favor and return the love? Question mark, question mark. Bless. No, I will not return the love. This is not how you talk to anyone. I'm not like triggered or anything. I'm just saying, like, if you send an email like this to anyone, like, let's just imagine that this guy's like, or this girl, I'm assuming it's a guy. Let's just, whatever. It's just, I just got to stop qualifying everything I say here. This person might go, you know what, Geoff, this is how the people in my industry, and this is how like my idols talk, you know, on Instagram or Twitter, whatever. If you message someone like that, that will not get to them. It goes through a handler. It goes through someone dedicated to PR for that person. And then that gets triaged into, you know, a different category, and it'll never really make the artist ever, but it might make someone, it might make the inbox of someone who might eventually mention it to the artist. But bottom line is, this is going to go in the trash. Part of that triage process. It's just not like, no one is going to take this seriously. This is not how people communicate professionally. You can't write people messages like this. And you might think that like, oh, we all know this, or like, you know, I would never do that. But they're like, this just happened. And while he didn't ask me a question about the Vodkast or anything, or like whatever, like he was hustling, right? He was trying to promote himself. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, this is not how you do it. Ever. So please take this as a teaching moment to never do that. I mean, there are some capital letters, and I think I saw a comma, a few commas, there's an exclamation mark. It's wonderful. But outside of that, it's like, just never do that, okay? Never communicate like this to anyone. Okay, so let's get on to the questions. A couple different questions about a few different things related to composing, mostly about pricing, which it keeps coming up. I've done a few vodcasts on this, and I've answered questions too in the YouTube channel about this stuff, and people continue to have questions. So I'm happy to answer them as best I can, but I always sort of avoid prescribing you a price for yourself, because then if it doesn't work out, then you sort of blame me, and it's like, I don't know, dude. But we're going to sort of, I think I've found a way to sort of work around diagnosing your problem with here's what you should charge. Anyway, so let's just jump in here. So, question 1. Hi, Geoff. My name is Joe Kurkuru. He says, don't worry about the pronunciation. I always worry about the pronunciation, Joseph. I really love the channel and your willingness to help up-and-coming composers improve. I recently just created a song for a children's TV show intro, and he sent a link. He goes, it's very short. My question is not so much about the mixing, but in terms of arrangement and harmony. How can I get it to sound more playful and more airy, he writes. It sounds sort of too jazzy to me. Is there any specific scales or chords I should look at to capture that sort of sound? Thanks again for your help, Joe. Well, Joe, you've thanked me way too soon. I have no idea how to diagnose people's tracks from a melodic or even arrangement perspective. In fact, I find producing, which is the art of telling someone else how they should do what they do best in a studio environment, I find that to be really difficult. I'm not good at it. Even when collaborating, even when arguing with someone, if someone presents a really great argument, I'm like, no, we're done here. That was a really great argument. Like, I'm not good at sort of massaging someone else's ideas, or I'm terrible at it, especially when it comes to music, because like people might know this about me. I can't read music very well, and I was never technically trained to play piano or anything. I mean, I did some piano lessons way back, but a lot of the stuff you hear on the channel is either born out of just a random idea that happened to come together very well, or it's something that I worked really, really hard on that would have taken someone who has much more expertise and knowledge of music theory, all of like maybe 30 seconds to do. And their 30 seconds would probably be so amazing that they'd be like embarrassed and throw it in the trash. Whereas that 30 seconds, if I had done that in 20 minutes, I would throw it on my YouTube channel and ask for money. So I'm sorry, Joe, but like first of all, I heard your sample, and first of all, I don't really know anything about children's television. I don't know what is sort of required of that industry as far as music goes, what people are looking for. I don't watch a lot of children's television, except when I'm hanging out with my nephews and stuff, although they've sort of grown up past like the Wiggles and all that, and now they're on to like, Human Centipede. No. But I don't know really this industry, and I'm so bad at telling people, oh, you should whatever. When it comes to mixing though, like that's when I can hear, oh, we have a compression issue, or maybe try a multi-band compressor instead of, I don't know, something. That's what I'm really. That's not what I'm good at, but that's what I feel confident diagnosing. So I'm sorry, but I have to skip over your question. But I'm answering it in that maybe if other people want to ask me questions about melody and arrangement, maybe they'll go, okay, we're going to go to somebody else. So sorry, Joe. Last name I probably didn't pronounce properly. God, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. Let's move on to the next question. I'm going to take a little sip here, a little refreshment here. Okay. Hello. I don't know who this is from. Oh, he says he is, okay, currently living in Manchester, UK. That's exciting. I just stumbled across your video, and I have to say you speak a lot of sense there. Really useful stuff, he says. Thank you very much. One thing your video left me wondering about though, is the following. What is the base figure to start from to work out the rate to charge? In my specific case, as I am a complete beginner, if one does not take into consideration keyboard arrangements for my band, I am all right with working for free initially to build up a name and reputation. But after that, how does one figure out the base number to start from? Thank you for dedicating the time to read and respond to this email. Best wishes, Marco. And then he says, P.S. I'm living in Manchester, UK. So I'm just going to jump to the next question because I hate people from Manchester. No, because the next question is also sort of like, it's kind of related to Marco's question. So this guy writes, hi, I've seen your video about how much a composer should charge, and I have a question. What do you think about charging a fixed rate for a project that also includes a revision, but every further revision after that is charged extra? For example, and he writes, fixed rate plus one revision, $100. Every further revision, $25. Okay, so now, to answer Marco's question, because people always come up to me and ask about pricing, and it's like, I don't know, pricing is a very delicate thing, and I think it should be commensurate with the experience that you have, the kind of clients that you've worked with, and the nature of the music. Is it going into a documentary? How many people might see this documentary? Is it going into festivals? Blah, blah, blah. So the number of eyeballs might affect the price. As for a base figure, I don't know in pounds what it might be, but I feel like, you know what? To answer your question, Marco, and I will get to the third question here in a second, I'm going to read a pretty solid comment that somebody left me. And I'm doing this because I'm a little shy about answering your question specifically and giving you like this is what you got to do. But I feel like this guy's question, or comment rather, would be helpful to you. At least get you a starting point. It's sort of like someone asking for like advice on their life, and it's me going like, well, what do you think you should charge? Like that's kind of the best I can do for these sort of things, because I am scared about people coming back and being a little bit cross with me that like the price that I put out there didn't work for them. But now that hasn't happened. It could be that I give you a great hourly rate and it works, and you're like, thanks, Geoff. But okay, so this fellow writes here, and I think he added this on that same like, what should you charge thing. So he goes, I would add that it's a good idea to define the boundaries as much as possible. So Marco and everyone else, listen to this. So here we go. So if it's a 50-minute documentary, know how many minutes of music they can expect for that and get it in the contract. You can usually get a good idea of their expectations from the temp music that they have no doubt edited in. So temp music is sort of like placeholder music that's just sort of there in the background. If it goes beyond the limit, your fee gets bumped up in production to your proportion to your original fee for each additional minute. You want to be aware of how much you're making per minute of the finished score. In my experience, and this might be helpful to you, Marco, right here, $100 per minute should be the absolute rock bottom for anyone. That's what this guy says. This is a stranger from the internet, okay? So take that with a grain of salt, but that's what I'm not saying you should do that, but that's what they've said. A reasonable rate is closer to $200 or $300 per minute. Factor that into pounds or euros. Maybe you're euros now in the UK. No, you're pounds. What am I talking about? A successful working composer, non-Hollywood, will see between $300 and $500 per minute. That's for a MIDI score. Now, you know what he's talking about there? So he means that when you have your DAW and all that stuff set up, that's like just computer, right? It's just MIDI, musical instrument, digital information, I think. I forget what MIDI stands for. But so that's just, it lives in the DAW, and you're sampling and triggering samples and on and off switch and all the rest. And he goes, live musicians always extra. So once you have the music and then you get it out to a sort of, you have it sort of written out and with some sort of like, MIDI to score software, then it goes on the music stands and people play it. That's going to cost extra, right? But just for MIDI, which I think is like the majority of people watching this channel, he's saying baseline beginner should be $100 per minute, rock bottom. But he says a reasonable rate should be $200 to $300 per minute. Also, know what you can output per day, he says. For me, if it's more MIDI orchestral, I can do about 2 minutes of finished score per day. So 2 minutes of music on the screen, right? So not 2 minutes of work. 2 minutes is the full time of the score, and it might have taken this person maybe 2 hours per minute of music. So that's 2 hours is what they're charging. So if you're starting at the bottom, that's $200. If you're starting at a more reasonable rate, $200, it's $400, right? So if it's soundscapey and drony, I can do 4 minutes and up per day. Be aware of what you're making per hour. It should not be $20 an hour if you're a composer. That's what he writes. He has 2 exclamation points. So, it's serious here. Remember, a plumber won't set foot in your house unless they're getting at least $100 per hour. So he's comparing composers to plumbers. No, I'm just joking. But he is. You've probably worked at least as hard on your craft as a plumber has. Lastly, he says, as a general rule, the less the gig pays, the more favorable the contract should be, and vice versa. If you're getting paid peanuts, don't give them publishing rights. They should only get an absolute bare minimum amount of rights for that. So that's what he writes. So I think the takeaways here for you, Marco, with respect to this comment is this person is saying that they charge $100 or that the baseline should be $100. If you feel like that's something that you're entitled to based on, the quality of your music and your output, the number of projects you've worked on, the amount of styles in which you can compose, then maybe $100 is a good starting point for you. And you're probably only doing MIDI, so I'd say you're safe there too. Now, what do I think of this guy's response? Here's what I think. I think going to me, reading comments like this, or having them read to you in this case, and go to as many people as you can. One thing that I did was I started a fake ad on Craigslist, or maybe it was Mandy. It's not against the rules. You know what I mean? It's not, whatever. And I said, looking for, 5 minutes, paid gig, blah, 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 blah. What is your base rate? Or what is your rate or something like that? And I had a whole bunch of emails come in from people. And a lot of them didn't want to give me a base rate, and I didn't dig too deep, but some did. And that allowed me to go, okay, in this case for you, I went on Manchester Music, I heard the comment that he read, I did my fake ad, I asked a guy, I emailed another guy, and then you take a sort of composite sort of number from all those numbers and go, this is what I feel comfortable with. So what I'm saying to you is make up your mind based on as much information as you can. Don't get bogged down just doing research on this. There's jobs out there waiting. But make an informed decision. Don't just go with 1 or 2 or whatever. That's why I'm always trying to push you in a do your research, see what you think. What do you like? Because I don't have the answer, and neither does this guy. Frankly, he has. What am I trying to say here? There is no right or wrong way to price yourself. There are only alternatives. So explore all the alternatives. Come back with a number that you think suits you and is commensurate with your experience and blah 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 blah. And then put that out there. And if it doesn't work, then I think I have a video up there, how to, negotiate and bounce numbers back and ask for budget and blah, blah, blah. Then do that. So hopefully this guy's comment was instructive and productive to you. If it wasn't, feel free to write back. And maybe I can get him to talk a little bit more about what he does and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of respect to this guy. Thank you. I don't know who you are. Me probably not even going to listen or watch this. But thanks for writing in. And hopefully that helps you in your quest, Marco. Best wishes to you too in Manchester. So as for question 3, which is, revisions and all the rest of it, I think that everyone should be doing this. I think that if you are getting asked to revise and blah, 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 like that means that you're doing, first of all, it means you're doing very good work. Don't think that just because you get a piece of feedback back that it's criticism and you're screwing up or whatever. They like you enough to go, actually, we think you're capable of making a few tweaks that we didn't realize we needed to make until, we showed the producer or whatever. And that's the other thing now, is that films it's no longer just the director and you. It's the director, the assistant to the director, the producer, maybe the writer's getting involved. Everyone's getting the email around and they all have feedback, and then you have to go, okay, reassess everything. So look at criticism and revisions as a sign that you're doing something right and that they believe that you are capable of continuing to do great work. They just want, a little bit more blue, a little bit less green, or more red, or whatever. So first of all, just let's get that out of the way. The second thing, and to your question, is you have to make sure that you have a conversation about revisions up front, that it doesn't come as a surprise after you've shook hands, whatever, and the money goes back and forth, and then suddenly they're like, let's get a revision. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, you should do that. You should say, actually, blah, 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 my revision is going to be $25 or whatever. But if it's kind of new to them that you're going to charge for revisions, that's, you got to be careful about that. If you're brand new and you've never done a movie before and they don't know that, then, it's fine. But revisions and charging for revisions shouldn't be a surprise. So it's important to get that out, at the front of things, because revisions, what that might do, having a conversation about those early on, might to them signal, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or girl, and we better really make sure that we give them as detailed a sort of a laundry list of what we want in the score as possible, so that they get it right the first time or the second time, so that we're not going over and over. So it helps both people. It helps you get a lot of information, and it helps them sort of maybe prioritize their work a little bit and their budget a little bit. So as to your question about, what should I charge or blah, blah, blah. Actually, you didn't ask me what you should charge. You just asked if it's okay to do a fixed rate plus a revision. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely fine for all the reasons that I just mentioned. I think it's a wonderful idea. So, fixed rate plus one revision, $100. Every further revision, $25. If that's your base rate, $100 for, I don't know what you're doing, then I think a quarter of that makes sense for every revision. Maybe that's a good rule of thumb. So, math, for every $200 base price, it should be X or whatever, a quarter of $200, whatever. I think that makes sense. I think it's totally fine. So yeah, I think you're headed in the right direction. And I think that revisions are really important to mention right at the outset, right up front. So, I think that's it for this vodcast. It might be a short one when all is said and done. I do want to talk about another thing, and that's that I'm appearing probably regularly, maybe semi-regularly, on the New Audio podcast with Sean Greenhall. He's the community manager at Isotope, and he's the one who comes up with a lot of those silly memes you see on the Facebook page. So I'm going to be doing some little bits with him. So if you want to hear me talk about non-composing stuff, then go there. I'm on the latest one with Nick Krill, who was in the Spinto band and is now doing a lot of production work and not production work, but he's doing a lot of like audio engineering and mixing and stuff. So you can hear me there. And I had a guy today on Facebook. He was like, I've never met him in my life, but he was like, yeah, I heard the podcast. Really interesting the way they treated you. I thought it was a bit harsh, but you handled yourself well. You should know that Sean and I are just kidding. We're just inventing this sort of conflict between each other. It's not real. Like, we're just joking around. And if you think that I've been mistreated, then you should know that that's part of the production. So anyway, don't worry about that. But that's it for this vodcast. Thanks a lot for watching and listening. Again, more stuff coming down the pipeline for the channel. Sonic Couture, I'm going to be doing their electroacoustic, which I think I mentioned earlier on. If you want to write a question to me, vodkastpodcaster@gmail.com. Tweet with the hashtag Vodkast. I will be happy to answer your question. You just have to be a little bit patient with me. And yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Like, subscribe. Blah 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 blah. Bye.